Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
Hi humans! Before we dive into our Halloween special, I wanted to remind you that we're a growing show, and much like a tactical doctrine, a little boost can go a long way. If you've got 30 seconds, a quick rating and review on iTunes would be amazing, or you could share the show with a friend, or even the Emperor, if you know him. Either way, we really appreciate your support. With that said, let's get to the show.
In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And a lot of weird shit. Roll to seize!
Welcome to our second annual Roll to Seize Halloween episode. I'm your host, Jay Jones, and I'm joined by my co-host and Warhammer enthusiast, Andrew Dickinger.
Hello.
Oh, man.
Ghosts. And goblins. Goblins?
Goblins?
Are there goblins in 40K?
I think there are.
Well, I guess Gretchen are goblins.
I guess, yeah. Gretchen's Grots. They're goblins, right?
Grots are goblins.
They're totally goblins. You had me worried there for a second. I thought you got into the powder again, and I was a little terrified.
No. No powder for me. I'm on a program.
Oh, that's right. We did put you in the program.
It's working well.
Yeah, it's the Inquisitors set that up, right?
Yeah, I mean, it involves a lot of torture and self-flagellation.
Well, that's kind of, that's normal, right?
Goes hand in hand.
Right.
Part and parcel.
Now, we're going to set you up in this program. Gonna be a lot of torture, but we think you're going to get a lot out of it.
It's called the pain program. It's good.
Tell me more.
Works.
Go on. Well, yeah? No? That's it? Just pain program? Okay, I'm in.
Do you have brochures? Well, we have an interactive brochure. I don't know what that means.
They just open a door. It's a person just screaming. It's like, I like what you're laying down. I like it. I'm in. So let's talk a little bit about the big news that's come out, which is Tau.
They just leaked really a bunch of the formations and the Decurion style detachment that they have.
They get reanimation protocols, right?
They get reanimation protocols.
Oh, man.
Fleet, run and charge.
Oh, God. So excited. So excited to see all the rules in one army.
But yeah, at least when Jay and I first heard about this and we were talking about it, essentially, we were like, wow, they've essentially tooled new Tau to be the death of Death Stars.
Yeah, which is amazing and almost like a revenge of the Jedi to the Empire Strikes Back that was the Death Stars to Tau, right?
Exactly.
Because originally Death Stars were created to combat Tau, how strong they were in 6th edition.
Yeah, well, specifically Tau Dar, the combination of Tau and Eldar.
Right, yeah.
Which was so strong that essentially people just started doing 1,000-point Death Stars, and then it completely rebounded to where you don't even see Tau anymore because Tau has 0 answers to Death Stars.
Yeah, and invisibility and all of that means stuff.
Nothing. You could potentially marker light invisibility, but still that's one unit gets to use it, and then you're just like, well, shit, now everybody else has to deal with snapshots, and then it's just a mess.
It's really, really rough. But with some of the new formations coming out, oh boy, have Tau put Death Stars in a bit of a place where I think we might not see them anymore.
Well, the game has definitely started shifting more towards MSU. If you don't know what that is, it's multiple small units. Just because in the format of, at least on the West Coast with ITC rules, MSU just, being able to coat the board in scoring units is very useful.
Yeah, I think there's that one popular army that does that a lot right now. I can't think of what they are.
It's totally not Battle
It's
Company.
not Space Marines, because Space Marines don't move in giant hordes. But it's probably something else. Maybe Orcs? Probably Orcs. Top tier army right now.
But yeah, so this new detachment, this Decurion style detachment that they got, has some rather ridiculous rules.
Yeah, let's get into some of the fun that we're seeing out there.
Now, they do have a very heavy tax with regards to units you must take if you take this detachment.
Right, which is like we see with other Decurion type attachments. I know with Eldar, there's a similar one where you got to take Val's Battery and Warwalkers and a bunch of Guardians. So there's stuff out there like that.
Yeah, and I mean, Necrons has to take, the Reclamation Legion and stuff like that.
But what you get, oh boy.
So we'll start off with like the smaller ones first. You essentially get a 12-inch supporting fire now,
which is so mean.
That's ridiculous.
And coming from a player like myself with Harlequins, that's basically a full assault army. That just kills my whole army.
Then they got their own version of run and shoot with battle focus.
Yeah, they got their own battle focus.
It is specifically run and shoot.
Right, you can't shoot and then run. But in most cases, you're going to want to do that with Tau, just because you're probably going to want to run back away from things like Death Stars, things like assault armies, and then shoot at them.
So essentially, our prediction was almost spot on, except instead of a consolidation when they get charged, they can just choose to run and then shoot and constantly be moving and shooting, which is... Now, I haven't seen the full rule with regards to whether it's snapshots or if they just get their full shooting.
Which I think they do.
I think they do.
They probably do. But there is a caveat. They have to be within 12 inches of their commander, correct?
Essentially, yeah. They have to... now, it's not specific. It sounds like they have to start the turn within 12 inches of the commander to gain the benefit.
Right, or end of movement phase. Either way, it gives you a lot of flexibility because the commander can now fly. It can be a flying monstrous creature, basically.
Yeah, with the Cold Star suit, you can essentially have him with up to 24-inch movement a turn.
Which means, you can really put him wherever you want to be able to get that 12-inch benefit. The other part of that is that's even better than battle focus in some ways, is this can apply to vehicles.
Vehicles can also choose to flat out and shoot.
Yeah, and I mean, sure, like the supporting fire and some of this stuff sounds pretty daunting and can hurt Death Stars, but really it's one specific rule that puts them into the dirt.
So they have this rule it's on the vein of target acquired.
Yep.
And what this is if a unit chooses to target one unit, then any other unit in the army that's in range and has not shot that turn can choose to focus fire onto that same target. Now, what this does is essentially treats them all as one unit.
Yeah.
So that means that all you have to do is use the marker lights for one unit, and they all get it.
They all get it. So that one unit now, the Death Star that had invisibility, and per ITC rules, invisibility is not snapshots. It's just you're firing at BS1. But now with all those marker lights, you can pump yourself back up to regular ballistic skill. Not only that, you can ignore cover, but you can do this for everybody shooting at one Death Star unit.
And if they're not invisible, essentially, you think about it, because the other added caveat to that rule is if at least 3 units are focus firing, they all get +1 to ballistic skill.
Right.
Which means that if you have like even more than that firing, then all you need is 3 marker lights, because 3 marker lights gives them ignore cover and +1 to ballistic skill 5 to the entire army, essentially, against this one thing. So like that rule alone against Death Stars, even if they have invisibility, but even more so if they don't, like you're gonna Wolf Star,
you're gonna shred into those guys.
You'll kill it.
And to top that off, there's one other formation, I believe it's the Storm Surge one, that has a very unique ability that really does seem like it was just built to just cripple assault Death Stars.
So essentially, it's made of 2 Storm Surge units and 1 Ghost Keel unit. And if the target unit is at least within 12 inches of the Ghost Keels, that when any unit in that formation fires at them, that unit loses run and
I think
flat out,
and halves its charge
range, which means that like essentially you can just make a Death Star just sit on their side of the board.
You almost double the time it takes for them to get to an enemy. And if you have like an Inquisitor with the servo skulls, I mean, you're taking a Death Star that was used to engaging and assaulting by probably turn 2 to maybe even turn 4. You can almost completely neutralize something like that.
Yeah, because I mean, you keep the Ghost Keels within that 12-inch distance, and then essentially you just jump, shoot, jump backwards, and then you just keep them 12 inches and jump, shoot, jump. Now, granted, even with jump, shoot, jump, they could get a charge against the Ghost Keels.
Right.
But then at the same time, the Ghost Keels are also not slouches in close combat. So it's just like, it's punishing, and then you combine that then suddenly with this detachment that they have, and not only is everything focus firing and sharing rules, but they're also making it so that assault Death Star unit can't get to you.
Yeah, it's crazy. So reading these rules, I'm pretty pumped to see where it takes the meta now with the inclusion of new Tau.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So the Halloween decorations, I mean, we got to start getting into the Halloween party that they prepared here, because it is wild. So first in hey, did you hear that?
That sounded like an explosion or something.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, everybody. We didn't mention this. We've been a little bit on edge, and I don't know if you can hear it now. We were trying to keep this on the down low because we don't want to get anybody concerned about what's really going on here at the Black Library. Trying to focus on Halloween, but according to the Harlequins, you know, the murder clowns that guard the webway and also this library. Well, someone has been making fun of Gozer, that chaos god of architecture.
Yeah, some loser.
Some crazy people, and apparently Gozer doesn't like it when you do this and has declared full-on war on the Black Library.
I mean, this has nothing to do with space dust.
Nope.
That breathing in.
Definitely not space dust. We are clean. You are in a torture program. We are working things out. So let's get out of this chaos for right now. Let's move into, I think we found a little quieter corner where we can... What do you think they use as weapons? Cement cannons?
They throw cement trucks at you, maybe? I don't know.
God, they're so stupid. I mean, anyways, so let's get into our seasons of the month. Andrew, would you like to go first?
No, you go first. I went first last time.
Fine. All right. And if anyone doesn't know and is just joining us now, our seasons of the month are where Andrew and I will talk about our biggest mistakes or missteps this past month in a Warhammer tournament or just normal Warhammer play, and just a little bit talk about like what we did wrong and hopefully how we can improve it. So for my season of this month, it's all around one topic of sometimes it's not good to soften up your target. And this is what I mean by that. So basically, I was in a game. It was my Harlequins, my Harladar, which is what I've been playing lately, which is my Harlequins attached to a Eldar group, which is mainly just an autarch with the Cloud Strike, which is those 3 falcons. I drop a bunch of fire dragons out of it. It's great. Look up Cloud Strike if you haven't already. I think I talked about it in a past episode. But basically, with this army, I was playing against Space Marines, and they were using drop Space Marines, and there was some Centurions in there. There's a lot of fun, normal Space Marine stuff. And during the game, we're playing ITC rules. In one of the objectives I was going for, which was one of the points I needed to get for Maelstrom, I had a bunch of Space Marines, I think it was 5 guys, a combat squad, sitting on an objective. And right next to them, like pretty much like a few inches away, I didn't need to worry about a charge, was my full Harlequin squad. Now, my Harlequin squad was not close enough to contest the objective. They weren't within 3 inches, but they were close enough to charge the Space Marines, and the idea was charge them, kill them all, consolidate onto the objective, get my Maelstrom point,
and,
right?
I mean, the chance that you're not going to kill that unit is extremely slim.
Extremely slim. All my Harlequins, I think there's 8 of them with 2 characters. All of them except one is running Caresses, and the one that isn't is a Strength 6, like 5 attack, crazy character. So like very high chance they're gonna die. So before I go in to charge the Space Marines though, I'm like, well, there's 5 of them and sometimes you can get bad rolls, but you know what, for the heck of it, I never get to do this because normally I'm running and charging with my Harlequins, because what's cool about them, by turn 2 they can start running and charging based on the formation you take, and I take that formation that does it. But this time I was so close, I was like, you know what, I never get to use these shuriken pistols, why not soften up the target and see what I can do? So they whip out their shuriken pistols, blow into the Space Marines. I think I just killed 2 of them, 2 of the 5.
Enough to cause a morale check.
Enough to cause a morale check. And the fearless Space Marines were like, you know what, let's leave. And then they just ran. Of course, they don't really run because they consolidate for free. But they ran away from the objective, which was terrible because now in my assault phase, they were too far away to charge, and I wasn't close enough to get onto that objective. And Harlequins don't have battle focus. They're not like every other Eldar character, so I can't fire their shurikens and then run. So I was left being more than 3 inches away from the objective, and my guys who were supposed to get me there just fucked off, basically.
So you lost all faith in your unit in close combat.
I did. I destroyed them with my hands. The wrath of Kegarok came down and just destroyed all of them. No, I didn't do that. So that's kind of my C's for this month, is sometimes it doesn't make sense to soften up the target if you can ensure yourself a point and a kill and a strategic move to just wait and trust that your kill close combat unit is going to do what they're supposed to do. Patience, everyone. That is the Murder Clown way. So that's my C's of the month. Andrew, what is your C's?
All right, so I've been running my Cult Mechanicus as of late.
Yes, the big robots.
I have a whole cohort, so 6 robots and 3 Data Smiths and a Dominus. It's a over 1,000-point unit, but it murders the shit out of everything.
It does what you imagine a 1,000-point unit would do.
It's definitely its claim to fame. Even though I lost one of the games in the last tournament, was in my final game. They actually killed a gargantuan squigoth and 14 mega knobs before they all died.
That's amazing.
It was epic.
They killed a dinosaur. Not everybody gets to say that.
That's very true.
Yeah.
But what my C's is in my first game I played against Decurion Necrons. Now I'll start off with a disclaimer. I'm not a fan of the new Necrons.
What?
I feel like they took a lot of flavor out of the book.
You're not a fan of walking concrete walls?
And yeah.
They're basically like movable terrain. You can't kill them. They're just movable terrain.
They're just like angry bushes.
Yeah.
And you're just like, no matter what I do, I can't seem to
Just blowing off leaves, but
like-
those limbs.
It's like bamboo. You just can't get rid of it. You gotta try to burn it out or something. But
And it's just as slow as that stuff, too.
yeah, exactly. So like they're nigh unkillable. So I was using this army. Now, granted, he was allied with Corn Demonkin,
Oh, okay.
which we won't need to get into.
I mean, like-
the fluff ramifications.
There's so many things I have to say about that.
We'll put that aside.
Put that in a little box. Okay, I won't talk
Little
about
box
it.
that's stowed away. But yeah, so essentially he had like 2 close combat death squads. He had the normal Canoptic Harvest, and then his other close combat squad was a Juggerlord for his Corn Demonkin attached to a unit of dogs, because
Right.
that's like the trademark.
He's just running around, sniffing and drinking powder and having a good old time.
Yeah, and I mean the Juggerlord is no joke.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Beastosaurus. So essentially, what should have happened? I'll emphasize
In
should.
a parallel universe, which happens a lot in 40K. We see them all the time in the Brown Library, but go on.
What should have happened is, with me charging in, getting the plus to strength, of having so much strength 10 to double out these goddamn wraiths, that like I was going into it, the combat was something like, I don't know, like 14 or 15 strength 10 hits.
That's a lot. That's a few
And-
strength 10 hits.
And like I went in and like, man, like he would just not fit. He made like 15 saves in a row. And I'm just
And these
like,
are not 2+ saves. These are 3+
these
saves.
are 3+ saves. So it wasn't even getting to the point of the BS feel no pain that he gets regardless of strength, which we won't get into. But
oh, man, that rule is so silly.
so like it wasn't even getting to that point. It was like before that was even happening, like I wasn't getting that. So then like the next turn I was like, so they should have just died essentially from my shooting, then my charge.
Yep.
And then a few may have survived because they're fearless, and then like his combat I would have finished them off.
Right.
And then once that's done, then the whole robot squad diverts and they go for the other death squad.
Makes sense.
But instead, that unit ended up surviving for like 4 assault phases.
You know why? Because they're both robots. So they were both doing the standard robot karate,
They're
which
like-
all robots know.
It's called beep boop.
It's called beep boop. Dangerous martial art. And they were matching each other perfectly, as robots do.
And what was also unique is that he also didn't take whip coils,
Oh,
which meant that I was always striking
you're always striking first.
at first or at initiative with him. So like everything was spelling
Everything
out.
was like laid out. You're like, oh, I got this.
This is no problem. And like his saves and his feel no pains were just on fire. It was ridiculous. So essentially my C's of the month is I should not have done that. I should have realized that the easier threat to dispatch first was the Corn unit. And because he had almost no shooting in his army, there was no reason for me to lose the shooting potential of that unit and throw them into the combat right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
There was like
Stay
no
back. Shoot some more. You got time.
yeah, and just force them to come to me. Because then if they're coming to me, then they're coming to me anyway. I don't have to chase them down.
Yeah.
And then I can just fight them. So yeah, that's my C's.
That was an excellent SAT C's.
It wasn't against or wasn't about Hive Tyrants.
At least it wasn't about Hive Tyrants. That's true. And we also all learned about the new robot martial arts. Beep boop.
Beep boop.
Well, now that'll take us into the...
What the hell was that?
What the hell was that?
Oh my god. Is that a gargoyle?
I think it sees us. We gotta get to the Brown Library right now.
God,
Okay,
where-
move, run.
Where's the key? Where's the key?
You have the key to the door? Okay, let's get this open. Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
well, you gotta give it to Chaos Gods when they go.
Yeah, they do. They stick to those themes, man. That was a stone demon. I mean, that's quite literally what a gargoyle is.
An architecture demon. Who'd have thought?
Yeah, jeez. Well, now we're safe inside the Brown Library. While we're here, I guess we should talk about some weird, fun facts, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, what else are we gonna do? We're kind of stuck.
Well, what was the poll this month? Do you have it?
So the poll this month was yet again another tie in the polls.
Oh, boy.
People just can't make up their damn minds.
Guys, come on.
But this month actually was a little more interesting. One that we haven't touched in a while since probably your favorite episode,
Ooh.
which was Imperial Guard.
Is it DMX Rough Riders again?
It's not Rough Riders, although there was somebody on the forums that wanted another DMX Rough Riders. I was like, but it's already been done.
Look, guys, we did DMX Rough Riders. It's not going to get better.
So it is Astra Militarum or Imperial Guard.
Ooh. I really don't know I know very little about Imperial Guard.
Yeah, just because you don't see them much anymore.
Yeah, you don't.
And then it's paired with Sisters of Battle.
What?
Which you may remember from the Corporal Punishment episode.
Well, you know about them just because you're in their torture program.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very familiar.
Right.
Yes, at this point. So these two units that we're talking about, one is in Imperial Guard, something that, beyond Rough Riders, actually my second favorite unit. So what we're talking about with Imperial Guard is Ogryns.
Oh my god, Ogryns!
Getting into the subhumans.
I do know about them, and you're right, I don't see them anymore.
Ever.
And their new models, aren't they pretty cool? They're like carrying like a giant riot shield or something like
those
that?
are the bullgryns. Yeah, they're a separate like subgroup of them. Yeah, their models are
Your
great.
name are Ogryns, my name are bullgryns.
But yeah, I mean, they
named themselves.
So their sergeants are called boneheads.
Boneheads?
As in boneheads.
Like they missed the H in the spelling?
That's just what they speak in Cogni, essentially. Like
right,
like
that's
orcs.
true.
So
oh, interesting. Ogryns being almost like the closest human cousin to orcs.
yeah, I mean, if you could make that
I guess that's like saying like if a person had to be close to like a plant, I guess this guy, right?
Because they are fungus.
They are fungus. They're not really people.
But yeah, so like they're boneheads or their sergeant. The reason it's called a bonehead is because they undergo what's called the biochemical Ogryn neural enhancement process,
which is a really long name for one process.
Which I mean, that's why it's subbed down to bone.
Okay,
it's the bone process.
Let's just call it the bone process.
They get boned.
Doesn't sound too bad. Sounds not too terrible to me.
But essentially, like, they're so dumb that they have to have their sergeants or their leaders like biochemically enhanced so that they can actually have some intelligence to follow orders and give orders.
This sergeant of the Ogryns is so smart. He's comparative to this chicken. Like, what is a smarter Ogryn like?
Like he knows
like a house cat?
Like 2 + 2 is.
Awesome.
It's not 6.
Oof.
He doesn't know what it is, but he knows it's not 6.
He also knows he hates dogs.
But yeah, so Ogryns are essentially, they're subhumans. They're a separate genus of human in the 40k universe.
Oh.
Like, you have the opposite version, which are ratlings, which are essentially like another subhuman, but
they're like halflings. They're like hobbits, right?
They're kind of like similar to Jawas in the Star Wars universe.
They all say, hoo-dee-dee, and they shoot things with electric guns.
Yeah. They're like snipers in 40k.
To be fair, if there was a Jawa army, I would own it and play with it. So I would know if there was a Java army.
I mean, you could if you go way back in the day with squats.
I think you missed it. I think I said Java army, which I guess is still a Jawa army because those dudes are drinking a lot of coffee.
They're hopped up on caffeine.
They're really hopped up on caffeine.
But then you have the abhumans of Ogryns, which are the opposite side of the spectrum, which essentially they're just like humans that have devolved somewhat, but they exist only almost entirely on high gravity planets.
So that's why they're like really, really strong.
Oh, and like big. Like, I mean, the average one is like 8 to 9 feet tall.
Jeez.
So like the same size or much larger than a space marine even.
Which is impressive because space marines, because you can't really tell in the model game, but like space marines are freaking huge.
They're huge. Now, granted, they're more like 7 feet tall, but they're, as far as like a human's concerned, they're enormous. And like Ogryns are like gigantors. And so like these Ogryns, they're essentially these people that had colonized or been left on these planets found unnecessary or unsuitable to other humans. But even though our mutation, and we know how the Imperium feels about mutation.
They're so accepting.
Very understanding.
They love it.
They still utilize them in the Imperial Guard, in the Astra Militarum, to essentially work as like shock troopers.
Yeah. Basically human shields. They do carry around shields.
There are the Bullgryns, in fact, carry walking Aegis lines, which is really cool.
That is really cool.
But then like let's dive into their stats a little bit.
Okay.
So these guys are actually like really tough. They're weapon skill 4.
Okay.
Ballistic skill 3, but they're strength 5, toughness 5 with 3 wounds.
That's awesome.
Like, they're beefy.
I love that.
That is hard to remove.
I mean, hey, there's a lot of meat on those bones.
Yeah, I mean, oh wow. You did that.
Yes, I did.
But then you get into it further, and essentially, like, anytime you think about the fact that a bolter is 5-upping against something, that's a big deal. Bolter is not hitting on the average dice roll.
On the 4+, yeah.
On the 4+.
That is a big deal, just that one number jump.
Because that's your main form of anti-infantry, and if these guys are, like, even, like, touching cover a little bit, like, suddenly 3 wounds with 5 toughness is a lot to remove.
It's real difficult.
So that's unusual. These guys also come with like 3 base attacks.
Really?
Which means they're actually really nasty in close combat.
Do they have close combat weapons, like 2?
No, they don't have like a pair.
Okay.
So I mean, I think their base attacks, it's enough.
Yeah.
They also have Hammer of Wrath, which also kind of
they
makes
do?
up for it. So yeah, so their Hammer of Wrath.
That makes sense.
Now the regular Ogryns, they come with what's called a Ripper Gun.
Okay.
And the Ripper Gun is...
It's not filled with rippers, is it? Because those things are terrifying.
No, as we've already established, a gun that actually fires rippers or facehuggers is the most terrifying weapon.
Is the
in
worst thing
universe.
ever. And they don't exist because those scientists were killed. Of course.
We called it disposed of.
Yeah. They were exterminatist, and everything around it was exterminatist as well.
That entire subsector is gone. But yeah, so like they have these things called Ripper Guns. Now they're not great. They're only like 12-inch range.
Mm-hmm.
It's still strength 5.
Okay.
Not bad.
Yeah.
It has no AP, but I mean, how often does anything but AP 3 and lower really matter?
Yeah.
It's actually Assault 3.
A lot of shots.
Which means, I mean, that's still 10 guys. It's still 30 strength.
Are they like
shots.
putting themselves in those guns? It's like they're shooting Ogryns. It's the same strength value, same number of attacks.
Well, and think of it, it's essentially like a chopped down bolter. Or a heavy bolter, sorry.
Okay.
So it's like, it's a big gun.
Yeah.
Like, it's the size of a Space Marine.
Trying to remember, did the old models, didn't they look like they used to walk around with like Tommy guns?
It's definitely drum fed.
Okay.
It definitely looks like a giant, like, super fat Tommy gun.
Maybe they shoot people. Maybe they just fire Imperial Guard.
The bullets are like mini people. They're very big.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so like that's not bad.
No, not at all.
Then we get into bullgryns. Now bullgryns are a little bit different. They essentially sacrifice the Ripper Gun, and unlike Ogryns, come with carapace armor.
Okay.
Which gives them a 4+ save instead of the 5+ from flak armor that Ogryns have. So Ogryns are almost always going to be relying on cover, essentially. Their shield has a really interesting rule. Now, if they're all in base contact with another thing that has a shield, they all instead have 3+ saves.
Oh.
It's called Shield Wall.
So they can make shields for other people?
Well, it's just for their unit.
Okay.
But then it goes the step further into what you're talking about. Essentially, that shield wall acts like a mobile Aegis line. What it does is if they are shield locked, anybody that's behind them that's getting a cover save from them has +1 to the cover save.
Oh, that's awesome.
So people standing behind them have
are 4+.
They have a ruin save.
That's amazing.
In Night Fight, they have a 3-up cover.
That's really fun.
So, like, you essentially use them as a total meat shield, a literal meat shield,
yeah.
unit to just stand in front and just put all of the softer targets behind and just go.
And so you're basically pushing them up the field with other guys behind them as support.
Exactly, and that's where the Sisters of Battle comes into play. Now what the Sisters of Battle unit that we're looking at today are the Sisters Repentia. Sisters of Repentia are essentially like they're flagellants. They're people that have...
They like to whip themselves, right?
They're more like they've broken a cardinal sin in their rules, I
Okay.
guess, so that they have to just have penance the rest of their life, and their like ultimate goal is to die in battle for the Emperor.
Jeez.
It's like remember, this is the Imperium, this is 40K, nothing is forgiving.
Yeah, I don't know why I was surprised by that. They literally have machines that torture you into fighting.
Yeah.
That's literally what they have.
It's literally a torture box. But yeah, Sisters Repentia are essentially like the torture without the box type of thing.
So it's just like emotional torture.
Yeah, I mean, they know they can't ever give themselves redemption. Their sisters will never forgive them. That's not that they're not given respect for what they're doing, because the rest of the sisters see them as like pilgrims trying to find absolution.
True.
But they still won't ever like invite them to parties or anything like that.
They're so cliquey, those Sisters of Battle. It's
Nah.
like, you can't come to my parties because you broke a cardinal rule.
Now, Sisters of Repentia are interesting. One, because they're a dedicated close combat unit. They have no option other than close combat, but they're just on foot. They're
Really?
just normal infantry.
Okay.
And sisters don't have access to an assault vehicle.
So they're like Banshees, basically.
They're in that same boat as Banshees, except slower, because they don't have like fleet like Banshees and
that's
stuff.
sad.
Now, what these guys have over Banshees, which is interesting, is one...
Is guilt. Crippling guilt.
They have crippling guilt.
Excellent.
They have actually no save other than a 6+ invul save.
I feel like you were about to say a positive, and then you said that instead.
No, all they have is a 6+ invul save. That's pretty much their only save.
This is a tough unit to make work.
Now, what they have is like an abundance of special rules.
Okay.
So they have all Sisters of Battle have special rule called Act of Faith.
Okay.
And
Is it it kind of like a tactical doctrine, basically?
It's sort of like that. They're not as good as tactical doctrines because they're usually like way more specific.
Gotcha.
Instead of like being army wide, like
Okay.
unless they're all the same type of unit.
Do they specifically apply to like one unit? Is that how it works?
It's a general act of faith rule, but then the act of faith being applied does different things for different units.
Interesting. Okay.
So the Sisters Repentia, their act of faith, it's kind of useful. It can be useful, and it can.
I would hope so.
I'll lead into how it's more useful. Essentially, it can only be used in the assault phase, and essentially, if you use it, it gives them a 3+ feel no pain until the end of the phase.
That's great.
Why this is important, now granted, they're only T3, so anything strength 6 or above.
Scatty bikes are gonna put some hurting on them.
Well, remember, they can only get the feel no pain in the assault phase. It's only for that phase, and it's only once per game.
Oh, gotcha.
So it's like that first round of combat is where you really need it. If they have no strength 6, then like you can just give them all 3+ feel no pain, and that's a big deal.
Okay.
But against anything else, it's kind of like they're just fodder waiting to get blown off the table.
Do they have power weapons?
Here's where it comes in.
Okay.
Why that first round of combat against key targets is it's important to get that 3+ feel no pain. It's because they have eviscerators. And what eviscerators are, what they are essentially super chain swords. Mm-hmm. They're unwieldy power fists that also have armor bane, I believe.
They're basically the chainsaw that Ash from Ash and Evil Dead has on his arm, basically. It's a chainsaw fist.
It's actually a two-handed chainsaw that's like 10 feet long.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's
10 feet?
It's at minimum, it's like the size of a man at least. So
it's basically a ladder that's a chainsaw.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's at minimum the length of a man, so like a 6 to 7 foot long chainsaw.
It's grimdark. They love their crazy elaborate shit.
You know, we have chain swords and chain axes, but what we really need
chain ladders
is a chain person, a plank. It's just a plank with a
plank
saw
of
on it.
chains and razors. Promote that man, whoever that was. Promote him. He's our leader now.
But yeah, so they have eviscerators. So eviscerators, once again, they're AP2, so they carve through anything.
That is nice.
It doubles their strength.
Also nice.
So they're strength 6, you know, because they're base strength 3, like most Sisters of Battle. So that's still like carves through a lot of stuff. Gets armor bane, which means they threaten all vehicles in the game.
Ooh.
But then what gets really crazy is that they're essentially their section of special rules on top of that. They're fearless, they have fleet.
Whoa.
And they have rage.
Wow.
With 2 base attacks, which means on the charge,
that's 4
eviscerator attacks.
That's great. I kind of see where you're going with this, with the old Ogryns, Bogryns, Bigryns, and Sisters of Battle. Bigryns is one we can't talk about because they're a super secret Ogryn.
Bigryns. I don't know what that. I have no idea what he was talking about.
No, it's just 2 Ogryns on top of one another, like with a giant trench coat.
So essentially, the way this army runs now, I had to throw 2 specific special characters into this list.
Okay.
To just make it the Undying list. Like, it just, both characters, because they're both factions, they both have a rule that basically like resurrects them.
Interesting.
So the Imperial Guard or the Astra Militarum, I'm only using 2 like proliferary squads of Ogryns.
Okay.
Just 2 squads of 5 as like a get up front, fight the wings type of situation and throw some strength 5 shots at stuff.
Sure.
More just like a side harass unit. But then just to make the most unkillable fucking death squad that I could possibly come up with, it's 10 bullgryns.
Of course it is.
Because it has to be as many as possible.
As many bullgryns and as many of the units as we can.
As many as possible. I mean, obviously you fill the ablative troop choices. You have I have vet squads. You have a couple vet squads in there with meltas to be some anti-tank. Some ranged anti-tank, and then as well I'll get to it with the Sisters unit, 3 exorcists, which are tanks that are ranged anti-tank.
Oh, cool.
So you have like stuff to soften targets.
Love that name, Exorcist.
Exorcist,
pretty cool.
But yeah, so you have this unkillable death squad. This special character is Commissar Yarrick, the old man himself.
Oh my god! Man, you remember, like, Commissar Yarrick was like, is he still the shit? Like, I loved that character back in the day.
He's a great character that very few people use, and he has one of the dumbest rules I've ever seen.
I'm excited. All I know is that all I really remember about him two things. He has a big enemy with Gazkull, right?
Gazkull is his sworn enemy.
And he looks like he's carrying a giant lobster claw in his hand.
Now, unfortunately, in a recent model, they just turned it into an orc power claw.
Oh.
But everybody who remembers him fondly remembers his and it wasn't even a full hand crab claw.
No, it wasn't.
It was just his thumb and his forefinger.
Yeah, they made
were a
like
crab
giant
claw.
pincers, yeah.
But then he still had the 3 extra fingers.
Yeah.
But it's just great that he just had these giant crab pincers.
These little pincers.
So he's like a souped up Lord Commissar.
Mm-hmm.
He's got, leadership 10. He gives everybody, like rerolls to everything essentially leadership wise. So
Cool.
like you attach him to the bullgryns, of course, and have him run up front. He's got a good save. He's got an invul save. He's got a power fist. He's got great weapon skill and ballistic skill. Like he's nasty.
Hey,
in close
if you're
combat.
a sworn rival of a giant orc, then you gotta be good.
Literally the prophet of the Wog. Yeah, like
you gotta be a badass.
A badass. And so so he's actually nasty in close combat. Where his bullshit rule comes into play
Ooh, I'm excited.
is if he dies, just regardless.
Okay.
Is if he dies, you sit him on his side, and then at the end of the phase, I believe, you roll a die. On a 3+, he just stands back up with one wound.
3+?
With 1 wound left, he just stands back up. Now here's where it really comes into play. This is infinite use.
Oh my god, that's
he literally
amazing.
can never die if you roll well.
That's hilarious.
Here's where it gets even crazier. He has Eternal Warrior.
What?
NT4.
Oh my god.
Which means that he's literally just like, try and kill me, bitches!
Bring it on, you son of a bitch! It's like, I killed this guy so many times.
So we gotta have like him attached to this Bullgryn squad, essentially like just all interlocked. He's standing in front, and then who's paired with
He's
him?
Leonidas, just running up there with the Spartans, basically.
And then also attached to him is the HQ that I had to choose from Sisters of Battle.
Oh, who is it?
Which is Saint Celestine, the living saint.
Oh, is she the one with the wings?
The wings chick.
Yeah, she looks awesome.
Now she's a badass in her own right. She's
Of course.
really nasty, especially in close combat. She only has an AP3 weapon, but she still has like 6 attacks or something on the charge and like
Jeez.
weapon skill 8 or some bullshit. And
That's
like
pretty high.
Initiative 8, and she just like
Just wrecks house.
just cleans house. But then she also has a rule that when she dies, she just stands back up, full wounds and everything for free.
Wait, you don't roll for it?
No.
She's even worse than Commissar Yarrick. She just cannot be killed in the
I
game.
don't know which one is no, it's not infinite use with her. It's only one-time use.
Okay. I was going to say, that's amazing if you take Saint Celestine and she's your warlord and you're just like, oh, you just can't get Slay the Warlord this game because this character just actually can't die.
I think I'd actually have to choose Yarrick as my warlord, only because Yarrick, I think, is harder to kill because he can literally never die if possible.
If you get decent rolls, I mean, even slightly below average rolls, you're still going to get him back up most of the time.
I think D is like the only way to get rid of, or sorry, like Stomp is no, because D doesn't even get rid of him. He will survive D.
Wait, what?
Because D will wound him and will kill him, but then he's placed on his side, and then he can still stand back up.
Oh, wait. So does it specifically say? I thought Stomp is just another form of
that's
D.
what I was saying. Stomp specifically, if you roll a
Remove the
6,
model from
it's
play.
remove the model from play. So Stomp and like the Orc Shock attack gun are really like the only ways that he can be gotten rid of.
That makes sense, because if you just, like, ketchup packet somebody and just squish them, it's like, I'm pulling myself together. Like, that doesn't make sense.
I mean, I don't know. You think about it like with a knight, like he's still getting hit with a chain blade that's the size of a tank and then getting up and being like, brush, I'm alright.
Dude, that lobster gauntlet, they don't make it like they used to. That thing is durable.
He's the motherfucking old man. You don't fuck with his shit. But yeah, so you have both these guys, even though she's jump infantry, fuck it.
Just run her with him.
You run her with that unit and just have
Fuck your Decurion detachment. We are unkillables.
I mean, like, that unit is just so, like, ridiculously annoying to get rid of. Because you have these 2 characters in front that just straight don't give a shit.
Do you want to take the bullet this time? Well, I took the bullet last time. You're right. I'll take the bullet this time.
So they're both in front, basically, like, with 3 Bullgryns in base contact. So they can just be like, and you have a wound, and you have a wound.
Ah, that's nice. That's nice they pass it around.
And then, like, just go at them. And then behind them,
Yep.
you
I
just
figured.
have layers of Sisters Repentia.
It's what we're required to do here on Roll to Seas.
Pulling just 3 maxed out units of Sisters Repentia, just pulling the cover save from the bullgryns.
Yep.
And just being like, well, we're just going to go at them.
And this validates a little bit more why your Ogryns, who are fairly easy to kill if they're not in cover, are not getting as much fire at them because they have to deal with everything else that's running at them.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, you could deal with you could shoot the Sisters Repentia and like deal them a lot of damage, but then you have a 10-man bullgryn unit and Commissar Yarrick and Saint Celestine right in your face.
Yep.
Like, have fun with that.
Enjoy.
But then, yeah, so, I mean, it's just that target saturation of melee of just like, it's slow, but if this gets to you...
This is such a fun, like, Death Star concept. I love it.
It's an Uber Death Star. I was like, this has to go all the way. That's essentially the entire list.
That's amazing. What's the name of this list?
So this list, I was struggling to come up with one, but then I realized with what the Sisters of Repentia are, with what the Ogryns are, it's got to be called the Outcasts.
That's
'Cause
amazing.
It's nothing but outcasts. It's literally the shed-off abhumans and the people that will never be accepted to parties again, joining forces.
I love how one is way sadder than the other one. It's like, well, we're subhumans. It's like, well, no one will invite us to our parties. It's like, okay, I guess you have it bad.
But yeah, that's essentially where that list goes.
That's amazing. All right, guys. Well, that was episode 16 of Roll to Seas. We'll be posting a new episode every month. And if you'd like to download more episodes or check out other similar podcasts, head over to partialarc.com. That's arc with a C. You can email us any questions at rolltoseas@gmail.com or chat with us on dakadaka.com and help us decide the next Brown Library segment. Just search for fluffy/underrated units in the 40K general discussion forums. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram for tournament and model picks at Partial Arc. Thanks for listening, and your fun fact for this month is...
Fun fact, there's a concrete thirster at the door. We gotta get out of here.
Oh my god! All right, goodbye everybody. Happy Halloween!